What's going on, guys? It's the Rear Naked Recap. UFC on ESPN 27, Fight Night Dillashaw versus Sandhagen. However you want to call it, we had a night of absolutely bad officiating. That's going to be a repetitive theme throughout the course of this video, but that's something that we got to touch on. Like, what exactly are they looking at? You've got three generally different judges every time, and do they go for the takedowns and zero control? Do they look for damage? Do they look for forward aggression? This night could have been a lot smoother for us. We still hit our top ticket. I suppose that's the main thing. It wasn't too bad of a night in that regard, but man, the oh so closes and the missed opportunities. So 11 fight offering, pretty entertaining top to bottom. So we'll jump right into things right at the bottom. We got Diana Belbita taking on Hannah Goldy. And we zoned in pretty heavily on the fact that Belbita had a 7-inch reach advantage. And for Hannah Goldy, she has great output. She shows up in excellent physical shape, but you know, being that short and having a 61-inch reach, she comes up basically a tad bit short on a lot of the strikes. And we saw on Contender Series versus Callie Robbins only 5'3". You know, she has a 63-inch reach. It's pretty comparable. She hits her almost at will. You know, 164 significant strikes landed. The UFC debut against her next time out, it's like she's just, again, she's too small in there. You know, she comes up short on a lot of those strikes. This Belbita thing figured to be a lot of the same, and it was. Belbita looked really crisp early. Again, she is the bigger fighter. She was the credited striker coming in, and I thought she looked really crisp early. She definitely won the first round. Drops her in the first round. You can make an argument for a 10-8 round on the fact that she just absolutely outstruck her, kept her on the end of all of her punches, drops her, you know, creates a little bit of damage, does get taken down, but works her way back up. Good round for Belbita, solid round for Belbita. And, you know, it's up to Hannah Goldy to make the adjustments. I thought she did a good job in the second round of making some of those adjustments, but it comes down to, you know, the actual strike. I mean, was it close on the numbers in the second round? Sure, but Diana Belbita is landing everything significant. She's the one hurting her. She's the one backing her around. And with Hannah Goldy, you know, she's attempting to mix in a few takedowns here and there, but there's just not enough going. So third round, I mean, I think everyone's on the same page here. It's Belbita 2-0. If you happen to score that first round for Belbita 10-8, I mean, this is a very clear fight for Belbita. The only thing Hannah Goldy could get is the finish. And in the third round, it's going exactly the same. I mean, Diana's outstriking her. She's doing a good job. She's someone who took a year off between her last performance, and I think she's made a lot of improvements. We saw in her debut against Molly McCann, striking was there, but it was short notice. Cardio wasn't quite there. Takedown defense wasn't quite there. You saw in her last fight against Joshua, striking looked good for the minute that she used it. And then she spams herself into the clinch, fights Joshua's fight, and gets armbarred. This fight, it's like she looked a lot more refined. She's still only 25. She's clearly making improvements. And that third round is just much of the same until Hannah Goldy ends up in a mount with not very much time left on the clock and just starts unloading on her. She realizes she needs to finish. At this point, it's become a sweat because we were cruising on Belbita until this point. But, you know, it's women's MMA. I kind of figured this fight was going to go to the decision regardless. We did get a Belbita knockdown in the first. She knocks down Goldy, and now we've got Goldy swarming in the third. So are these just easy, no sweat involved decisions? No. But all the same, Belbita is able to survive. She gets the rightful decision victory and moves forward. You know, you can score that fight 30-27. You can score that fight 30-26. You could give the third round for Hannah Goldy on the basis of that strong finish late, but it did feel like a little bit too much too late. Hit that one anyways with Belbita. We're happy. For the people that got Belbita earlier in the week, it was plus 150. You know, that was clearly the play. If you got her at even money, still clearly the play. If you got her by decision, which again was plus money, all good stuff. But yeah, I mean, solid little performance for her. And for Hannah Goldy, I don't really know where she goes. She had come off a 2-year-long layoff, didn't look particularly good in this fight. Size is definitely going to be a problem moving forward. And she pulled out of, I think, their last 3 fights, but one of them was with COVID against Jessica Panay, and then the other 2, I believe, were with injury. So I know she's battling some stuff as well. She has a kid. She is a mother. You know, maybe fighting is not her, I don't know, maybe it's not just her top interest anymore. Who knows? But solid performance for Belbita. She moves forward. That's all good stuff. Sinjara Eubanks versus Elise Reed. We end up using Eubanks as a top ticket play. She made weight. Looking good. She didn't even use the pound allowance. She came on 125 pounds flat, which is very positive to see. Looks like she had energy. And again, this is just your classic styles make fights. You have Sandhagen Eubanks coming down from 135, where she was competitive as a bantamweight, but surely with that size is going to factor in legitimately as a 125-pounder. And with Elise Reed, she's coming in on short notice. She's moving up to 125 from 115 pounds, and she's notoriously got bad takedown defense. So the only thing I could say that I was wrong personally on this fight was Eubanks is not really the most potent of finishers. I mean, she has 0 submission victories in her career, so even though she's accredited BJJ black belt under Lloyd Irvin, the submission, a couple of people were chasing that submission prop. she just doesn't seem to utilize all that much. Does have 2 TKO wins and, can clearly get it going. But she seems sometimes to just prefer the position over the submission or the ground and pound, hold the opponent down, grind on them. Going down to 125 pounds, I was a little bit worried that maybe the gas tank would be affected. So if she chased that early finish, she might overexert herself, and as a result, she'd probably just slow the pace of this thing down. But yeah, she knew that she had an opportunity to take Elise Reed out. She knew that it was a mismatch early. And how would Elise Reed theoretically win this fight? If Eubanks got tired late in the fight, she worked her way back into it. She took her opportunity, easy money on the ground, just floated on her and got an easy first round TKO. So that's what a minus 400 is supposed to look like. That was obviously a big mismatch in favor of Eubanks, and she took full advantage. I'm glad that we used her as a top ticket, because when else would you ever use Sindhara Eubanks as a top ticket play? And thankfully she performed and took the judges out of it, because that, as we move forward, the judges start interfering with how these plays were supposed to go. So we're 2-0. We're happy with that. We move on to Julio Arce versus Andre Ewell. And again, Julio Arce is a guy that I got a lot of faith in. Maybe the one worry would be it's just another guy coming off a layoff. He had double elbow surgery. He's had a couple of years off. He's now coming down from 145 pounds to 135, which I thought better weight class for him. Fits his frame a lot better. Great cardio, solid striking, wrestling and grappling is there. And I thought that he would mix in the wrestling grappling a little bit more against Andre Ewell. Ewell's just a tricky fighter, I mean, he's only 5'8", but with that reach, my God. I mean, he's got a nasty jab on him, and he's good at gauging some of that distance. His problem is he backpedals a lot, and it's super tired to backpedal and jab the entire fight. We have seen him go 15 minutes. We have seen him fight those 3 rounds, and we've seen him with high output, but you've also seen him get cooked, tired, backpedaling and throwing those strikes. So, you know what? Again, with Julio Arce and his style, he's just going to keep moving forward the entire time. I thought that striking would be competitive, but Julio would mix in those takedowns and would be live for that 3rd round finish. We kind of keyed on maybe if you were chasing some of these random props, kind of that 3rd round finish. But dude looked good, man. He looked really good. The layoff clearly didn't affect him. He came in excellent shape. 135, definitely the weight class for him. And he did not need the wrestling or the takedowns whatsoever. Grappling was not an issue. His striking was more than enough. Guy's got crisp boxing. I mean, he comes from a Golden Gloves background. He's also got that kickboxing base. One of the things that a lot of people had mentioned was the fact that he doesn't kick a whole lot, And with Andre Ewell and that big tall stance of his, like the leg kicks would be there all day. Why doesn't he kick as much? But out of Tiger Schulman, trimmed partners with Jimmy Rivera, surely the leg kicks were going to be part of the game. And I thought he mixed everything really well. I mean, he used the leg kicks to kind of slow down Ewell, got his timing, figured out the counters. In the 2nd round, he just comes at him ultra aggressive as if he's figured him out. Ewell definitely starts to fade. Julio smells the blood in the water and just pounces on him. We don't get a 3rd round finish. We get a 2nd round finish. But all the same, Julio hits someone that we were very confident in. And again, good to have a positive read there. And this is a solid win for Julio. The one thing, and we'll bring this up, the one thing is that at 135 pounds, it is absolutely murder's row. How do you advance yourself at 135 pounds? So Julio, solid performance. And most definitely an exciting guy to join the ranks, so to speak. But I just get so excited when I think about all the possible matchups for these bantamweights. And again, if you look at this card in particular, you got the main event, Sandhagen and Dillashaw, and both of them are going to factor in now. But you just got a number of these high-level guys. This is, according to Tapology, it's nothing official. But this is even, this is the top 30. I'll just point at the 28, Adrian Yanez, who we saw on the card, looked spectacular. Montel Jackson's coming into his own. He's number 26. And you've got Cody Stamen, who's a legit kind of gatekeeper for the division, but a very solid guy, very skilled guy. He's the 25th best guy in the division. The rest of the division features names like Nathaniel Wood, Timur Valiev, Casey Kenny, Rowney Barcelos, my boy, but let me down last time out. Kyler Phillips could have done a little better. Jimmy Rivera, Sean O'Malley, Cheeto Vera, Rafael Sunsao, TJ Dillashaw's ranked 12th, apparently. He'll move up, I'm sure, after that. Frankie Edgar, Murad Vashvili, Dominic Cruz, Cody Garbrandt, Marlon Moraes, Jose Aldo, Pedro Munoz, Rob Font, Corey Sandhagen, Peter Yan, and they got one as Aljamain Sterling, although we know, big asterisk next to this one, Peter Yan, best in the world. So Julio factors in, nice. But again, it's do you throw him in with the top 10 guy right away, or do you allow him to take some more of these fights? Coming on a win over Andre Ewell, don't throw him in the top 15 just yet. But his performance did speak volumes for sure. He looked fantastic. So if he can continue improving on that, I think he's only 31 years old, so he's in the prime of his life right now. Best yet to come. That was a solid building block and a great way to put your name back on the map. So happy with that. Now we went with the first underdog play on the night. We got Mickey Gall over Jordan Williams. This was a flip-flop play. If you listen to Dog or Pass earlier in the week. I mean, I wasn't confident on either side when we did Dog or Pass, but it was like, yeah, okay, if Williams makes 170, which he was coming down from middleweight for the first time, diabetes wasn't going to be an issue. He was going to make the weight. He would be the larger guy. Looks like he had a little more zip in his strikes, and the guy's durable. If anything, that's kind of the only thing we've seen from him, is that like he's durable. He's got a willingness to mix it up in there. He keeps coming forward. When his opponents get tired, he's not quite gone yet. He had a decent performance his last time out against Imavov, in which he actually hurt Imavov a little bit in that first round. So that's all good stuff. A little foreshadowing. Imavov ended up being a completely revamped man. But regardless, with Williams, it was like earlier in the week. It's like, okay, I get it. But then as it progressed, it's like, you know what, man? That plus money on Mickey Gall looks pretty good. He's been off a year. This is a guy that makes a lot of improvements fight to fight. It's just that we love to shit on him. Love to shit on Mickey Gall because he fought Mike Jackson and he fought CM Punk and Sage Northcutt. We should be honest, the Sage Northcutt's probably the biggest win of his career. What's bigger? Salim Touari? No. He's got no notable wins, but to his credit, who's he lost to? Randy Brown? Stud. Mike Perry? Weirdo. Still pretty good, man. Can't take that away from him. Diego Sanchez? Geez, man. He's a legend. He's got some of the most experience in UFC history. One Ultimate Fighter won. Has a style that didn't really go well against Mickey Gall, in terms of Gall style. So you can kind of give him a pass on that. But what I did like is that you saw improvements in his striking every time out. The Mike Perry fight, his striking looked the best it ever has. Perry ended up just flipping the script and taking him down. So again, just as it progressed, it was like Gall's going to be live here. He probably has a grappling advantage. If this thing wants to hit the ground, he's got better jiu-jitsu. As far as the wrestling goes, it's not like Williams is a good defensive wrestler. Like I wasn't super confident he'd be able to just stuff these shots out. And again, striking, we're giving the advantage to Jordan Williams based on what we know. But yeah, again, this narrative of Mickey Gall makes a bunch of improvements fight to fight, and his striking looked like it was coming a long way already. I just banked on that narrative last minute. So tweeted at the place, put Gall on. It did put Gall all the way at the end. He was the bottom of the PRP. So it wasn't like he was the most confident guy going. But, dogs are always barking. They're going to come through. He seemed like a legitimate one with a shot. And career best performance out of him. I don't think he looked super crisp as some of the people online were saying. And Jordan Williams didn't exactly look good himself. But, yeah, this was a career best performance for Mickey Gall for sure. I mean, comes out early. It looked like the speed advantage was going towards Williams. He was kind of touching him up a little bit. Mickey Gall just kind of struggling to find that early rhythm, but he would step in with this nice elbow right through the middle. It kind of shook up Williams a few times. And then just as it looks like Williams is maybe getting a little bit comfortable in there, and that Gall striking just looked a little bit mediocre, he drops him. Now, there was a head clash prior to that. And the referee did mention him to Mickey Gall, like, yo, watch out with leading with your head. Because when he would come in with these combinations early, it was just like head down, move right in. And one did clip Williams. Not sure if it caused any real damage. It didn't cut him. It didn't bruise him. But, you clash heads with somebody, it definitely buzzes you. And then he proceeds to get flash knocked down. So once he gets knocked down, it's like, oh, shit, Gall does have some power. The striking looked better. I wouldn't say he's a striker. But, yeah, against mid-level guys, he's going to be able to use his hands against them. And his hands look good in this fight. His hands look good enough that with his power, he was going to land something. He did. He dropped him. Now this is Mickey's wheelhouse. Get this fight to the ground and put him away. Kind of flirts for that guillotine choke. And I thought it was a bad move. Williams gets back up, and I'm thinking, Mickey, why go for the guillotine? How stupid am I? Because that flirt to the guillotine was the turning point for him in the fight. I mean, he's already winning. Don't get me wrong. He does look good. And Williams, maybe it was the cut to 170. Maybe he was low on sugar. I don't know, but he did look a little lethargic in there. I didn't think he looked bad. I wouldn't discredit Mickey Gall's performance in saying, well, it was just a cooked version of Williams. Is that like maybe it was the headbutt? Or maybe it was the flash knockdown, but he looked out of it. When Mickey Gall got that second guillotine choke, he pulls guard on it, uses that guillotine to switch over to mount, and then as soon as he's in mount, Williams gives up his back, he sinks in that rear naked choke, puts him away. BJJ looked definitely on point. That's his strong suit. He was a grappler to begin with. He still is a grappler. It's just nice to see him add those other wrinkles to his game, like the striking. Power's there, striking's kind of there, still only 29. He's trained at a dozen gyms, but the best gyms in the world. This was solid, man. The guy's a fighter. He's not just like a gimmick type performer. And this is a solid victory for him. On the Williams side of things, I don't know what you do. Do you come back to 170 where it may have been a tough cut, where your body may not have reacted well to it? Or do you go back to middleweight where you're having a little more success, but you're always going to be the undersized guy in there? I mean, he was weighing in at like 182 pounds, meaning he wasn't cutting anything. You can get away with that when you're fighting in Contender Series. You can get away with that when you're fighting on the regional scene, but you can't get away with that when you're fighting in the UFC where you got weight bullies, man. These guys are cutting 20, 25 pounds to make the weight class. You're not cutting any weight at all. Come fight night, you weigh 182, he weighs 205. Bit of a problem now, isn't it, right? So he's in a difficult position. And with Mickey Gall's the biggest name 7-3 guy in the UFC, right? Like, he has virtually no experience. His biggest win now is Jordan Williams, who hasn't had a whole lot of luck in the UFC so far. Again, I would reckon that it's more Mickey Gall's got the name, but that's cool for him because instead of having to fight these young whippersnappers who are looking to take his head off, he can just have some of these other fun fights. They'll give him some guys, that have a bit of a name that are maybe not too, like, he was already fighting the Diego Sanchez of the world and the Sage Northcutts of the world, the Mike Perrys of the world. They always give him these fun type matchups instead of these like tough end matchups. But this is a good performance out of him. Not as good a performance as Nassourdine Imavov, but this one, full admit, this guy looked awesome. This was my bad read of the card, perhaps my worst read of the card. To this point, we're 4-0, and we just hit an underdog ticket on Mickey Gall, so we're feeling good. And I really thought that Heinisch was going to come out here and perform a lot better than he did. So first and foremost, not to discredit Nassourdine Imavov, his cardio looked on point. We already knew he was a good striker. He's known as the sniper for a reason. Striking was there, but that fight against Phil Hawes was just so easy to control him against the cage. He gassed out. His takedown defense didn't look particularly good, and he just kind of looked, out of it of sorts. So basing him on that performance, and if you know me, I'm a huge Imavov guy. This is the first time I betrayed my boy. This is the first time I did not credit my boy. I was so disappointed in that Phil Hawes fight, a fight where I had Imavov as the underdog. I had Imavov inside the distance as an underdog. I had Imavov by KO as all good plus money plays. And he could have won that fight, but he blew it for himself. So I was a little bit disappointed in the Hawes performance, but man, did he ever come out there. And this version of him shows up against Phil Hawes. I'm cashing all those tickets. Unfortunately, it took that loss to improve, and that's MMA, man. You learn a lot more from the losses than you do from the wins, and he was on record saying, I probably watched that loss to Phil Hawes 200 times. And that's huge, man. That's getting back to the drawing board. That's looking at where did you make the mistakes, and that's improving. And I'll admit, he looks so comfortable in there, so calm, cool, and collected. Cardio was on point. Striking, again, we knew it was going to be on point, but because he was adding all those other intangibles, it just allowed him to flow in there, and his takedown defense looked good. Heinisch, meanwhile, Heinisch is known for his durability. He's never been knocked out. He's also known for his cardio. He trained in Colorado for a very long time. And he's a guy that can push a pace. He's at Sanford MMA now. Sanford MMA has been on a wicked run. He's been working specifically on his striking to improve that. And he does figure to have the wrestling advantage here. The two biggest letdowns were his chin apparently wasn't cast iron, as we believe, and his cardio was not good. And that all leads me to believe that just something was off with him. Maybe he was sick. Maybe it was a bad weight cut. Maybe he's just getting older, and he, this kind of proved that he's a little bit over the hill, but he did not look himself at all. In the first round, Imavov's just getting the better of the exchanges. He's using that long jab. He's just a lot quicker, and everything is just so sharp, 1-2 down the middle. Heinisch has got this problem where he just dips his head straight down, throws two overhands, tries to close the distance, and Imavov's gone. So it's like, you know what, dude? Press him up against the cage. That's what Hawes did. A ton of success. And he does. He spends like a minute and a half in that first round, pressed him up against the cage. And as soon as Imavov separates, it's just like he's keeping him at bay and just touching him up. And again, Heinisch looks lost. He gets a cut over the eyebrow. He starts to bleed. And he looks tired at the end of the first. Not expecting that whatsoever. If there was one thing that he was doing well, is the leg kicks were just landing at will. I mean, he would just land these things whenever he wanted. Didn't quite throw as many as he could have, considering it was right there for him. But, one would have to imagine if Heinisch was going to work his way back into this fight, he's got to hobble that leg. Hopefully, Imavov's gas tank runs out here in the second, and hopefully Heinisch is able to mix in those takedowns, none of which happened. So he actually did land a couple more good leg kicks in the second, but Imavov's got, no pain in his leg. He checked none of them. And he stands pretty upward, flat-footed on that lead leg. And yet none of those kicks, sometimes there was 3 kicks consecutively, outside, inside. And it's just like he never moved gingerly. He did not appear affected whatsoever. Kudos to him. And so right then it was like, oh, one of your paths to victory here is now off the table. Well, let's try that wrestling path to victory. Nope. Now he's tired. Now he can't spring forward. And Imavov just stuffs everything. So now it's like, okay, well, now we need Imavov to tire up. Nope, he looks in excellent shape. So he absolutely battered him. It was a fair stoppage. Heinisch wasn't trying to improve his position. He was basically just grabbing onto the cage, hoping for the referee to stop it. As soon as the referee did stop it, there was no protest from Ian Heinisch. I would speculate that he was off because that was the bar none worse version of that we've ever seen. But it is possible that he looked so bad because Imavov was just absolutely on fire. So I hate, this is a part of the game I hate. I love Billy Q. I love Imavov. And so you see a matchup that you don't really think it's going to go their way, and you got to fade your boy. And then they go out and they just have career best performance. Billy Q proved me wrong. Nassourdine Imavov prove me wrong. So solid performance from him. I would love to just jump back on the bandwagon that I kind of half created, but it's too late for that now. We're going to have to see who he gets his next time out, but he's going to be a serious threat this next time out because clearly he's making improvements. And where was he weakest? His cardio looks suspect. His takedown defense looks suspect. Heinisch is a fringe top 15 guy. He's a gatekeeper within the division now, and he absolutely just blew through him a lot better than pretty much anybody who's fought Ian Heinisch has been able to do. So that was definitely a good performance. You can't take away anything from him, regardless of if there was behind the scenes issues occurring there with the Heinisch camp. Moving on, we got Brandon Allen, Punahele Soriano. I always struggle with that one, Punahele Soriano. Again, this one was a letdown and probably a bad read for myself again. 2 consecutive here. We started off 4 in a row with a dog hit. We're feeling good. We just got straight up humbled in that last one. And this one was much of the same. The one thing I didn't understand was that live betting line. So the UFC would put up, and DraftKings Sportsbook, best sportsbook, don't get me wrong, no problem there. It seemed like it was a graphic problem because these lines just didn't seem to exist. And I looked on multiple books, and I just, at no point did I see it. But in the first round, Soriano starts off the way the majority of us thought he'd start off. The guy is strong. He's got power in both hands, and he's going to touch up Brandon Allen. What we didn't expect was Brandon Allen, known to have at times a suspect chin, just took everything, man. He took both shots. Everything that Soriano would land, I mean, he just kind of rolled with it. And he was the one throwing combinations. So Soriano, he just kind of throws the same 2 punches, He lines you up for the right hand. He's got a left hook, right? He's got the same 2 punches over and over. And it's just 1-2 or a one and done. One shot, 1-2. Allen was mixing it up perfect. He'd throw his 1-2 and then mix up the body kick at the end. And that body kick landed flush to the body. Soriano with a high guard. So, I mean, nothing was even blocking it. Over and over again, repeatedly. Surely that's got to take something out of a guy. Soriano's kind of got suspect gas tank to begin with, and all these body kicks are going to start adding up. First round's close. I give the edge to Brandon Allen because he probably landed the more volume, but the bigger shots were from Soriano. It didn't matter who won the first round, right? Give it to Soriano. What you knew after that first round was that Allen looked good. His cardio wasn't going anywhere. He was feeling himself. He was mixing his combinations. And if we were worried about his chin, he just took all of Punahele's best shots. So the second round is going to go better for him. This third round is going to go better for him. Soriano, he looks like he's a one-round fighter. All of his wins are in the first round outside of the Jamie Pickett fight in Contender Series, which he gassed out. The only fight that went beyond one round. Didn't look particularly good and gassed out, but that was 2 years ago. Maybe he's made those improvements, but you knew right after that first round. Actually, you knew about the 3-minute mark. As a Soriano backer, it was like, oh, shit. He's tired. It's all going to go downhill from now on. And I seriously underestimated Brandon Allen. I thought Brandon Allen would have to wrestle a little bit more. I thought he'd probably need to take this fight to the ground. If he could, grind on him. I didn't think he would just stand in front of him and strike with him. He tried to do that against Sean Strickland. Bad game plan. But Sanford is one hell of a gym. And whereas Ian Heinisch came out absolutely flat, Brandon Allen did not. He was firing on all cylinders. So the round ends. I had Brandon Allen. Even if you did score at Soriano, they give you the live betting odd. And it's like minus 360 for Soriano. There's a comeback of plus 240 on Brandon Allen. Only a moron wouldn't hit that line, right? But I just don't think the line existed. I think, if anything, maybe the line existed for a second, 2 seconds, and now somebody building the graphics pack for the UFC, needs to take that information, or maybe it's relayed to him, take that information, put it on the graph, fill it in. That doesn't take long, right? Get the thing ready, and then your producer would have to tell the playback guy, roll me that stat. You roll the stats. Maybe it's 2 minutes. But when you're doing a live round, guy gets dropped. Line will inflate to minus 600. Dude just pops back up and starts pressuring the other guy and takes him down. Line's going to drop back immediately. And by the time the graphic came up, that's all I can think about. All I can think about is that line was created 2 minutes into the fight when Soriano looked fresh and was landing some of those shots. And not after the first round. Like, how was it after the first round? So anyways, I never hit this one live because I looked for that line, didn't exist, and then I just kind of backed out. Wish I would have hit it at anything because, again, after the first round, it was all Brandon Allen. So great performance from him. Definitely a big step forward. For Soriano, this is actually a blessing in disguise, I would say. He was undefeated. He needed that loss. Again, a loss is good for you. Go back to the drawing board. Do what Imavov did. Where did I go wrong in this fight? Geez, you know what? You throw the same 2 punches all the time. You know what? He timed you out. You know what? That body kick was money for him all day. You know what? Your cardio might have been better, but when you're getting work to the body like that, you're getting zapped. Why didn't you drop him on those shots? Maybe you had to turn a little bit, but at least you can go back and analyze. When you beat somebody's ass, it's just like, yeah, what's up? All my training was good. Everything I did worked. and I'm going to do the exact same thing next time. This at least forces you to get out of your comfort zone. And it's a realistic approach. There's probably a lot of people. Listen, I had Soriano, so I'm not saying I'm one of those people. A lot of people like this guy a lot. Wrestled D3, judo background, very strong, big power in his hands, coming off consecutive first round knockout victories in the UFC. That's all really good stuff, but that probably gets back to him as well. Now, when you meet people, now when you work with people, it's like, oh, you're the man, dude. Future champion. You're going to be a champion. Oh, man, undefeated. You might go undefeated forever. That shit starts to add stress, pressure, and, a self-belief that might not be real, right? And you might believe, geez, I'm a lot better than I am, because you've got all these people around you telling you how good you are. And this guy is good, but this loss will make him better. So excited to see if he makes those improvements. And if he does, what his ceiling will now be after that. And for Brendan Allen, totally realizing his potential.
Hey folks, we'll get back to Cody and the Dogger Pass recap here in a second, but first I want to talk to you about DraftKings Sportsbook, which is not only my favorite sportsbook, but also America's top-rated sportsbook. Speaking of America, their top athletes are over in Tokyo competing for the gold, and DraftKings has a medal-worthy offer just for our listeners here. Listen to this great offer. Place any pre-event wager of $1 to be eligible to cash $100 in free credits if America wins any medal this year. There's probably a good chance they're going to do that. That's 100-to-1 odds on an American athlete to stand on the podium and receive gold, silver, or bronze this week. They don't even have to win just gold. They can win silver or bronze. 100-to-1 odds on an offer like this doesn't come around often, so sign up for DraftKings Sportsbook now to get in all of the action. I personally love using DraftKings Sportsbook. It's easy to navigate, has plenty of instructions for new bettors, and nearly limited ways to get in on all the action. My friends, even my family, I have people that I didn't think would ever bet, just been telling me that they're using DraftKings Sportsbook, and I know you're going to love it too. So here's what you have to do. Download the top-rated DraftKings Sportsbook app now and use promo code DOP for Dogger Pass when you sign up to turn $100 in $1, not 100. You turn $1 into $100 in free credits if America wins a medal. That's code DOP to turn $1, one singular dollar, into $100 in free credits for a limited time only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Must be 21 or older, New Jersey, Indiana, or Pennsylvania only. New customers only. Restrictions apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Or if you're in Indiana, 1-800-9-WITH-IT.
So now we get the main card. We're moving on, and this is where we really need to get back in the win column in a very big way. We just dropped the last two fights, so we got Adrian Yanez taking on Randy Costa, and I've backed myself into a corner on this fight. I got Yanez big, talked him up all week. I think this kid's legit. I think this is an excellent stylistical matchup for him, and I hated the promos and the lead up to this fight, Randy Costa versus Adrian Yanez. It was just super weird, like, both guys were so buddy-buddy, and it was this whole narrative of Team Dr. Pepper versus Team Reese's Pieces. I am most definitely Team Reese's Pieces. Unfortunately, the Reese's Pieces side was Randy Costa. The Dr. Pepper side was Adrian Yanez. So on this special occasion, I had to be Team Dr. Pepper. I made a couple bets with people that was like, at first it started off as a joke. It was like, I'll tell you what, if Yanez loses, then I'll eat, I'll heat up these warm peanut butter cups and I'll eat them, which I thought that'd be actually pretty delicious. If you lose, if you're betting Costa and you lose, you'd have to drink Chewy a warm Dr. Pepper, right? Who's got a better deal here? Who wants to Chewy a warm Dr. Pepper? Nobody. Who would, eat some melted Reese's peanut butter cups? Actually sounds pretty delicious. I will admit, unless you had something like a glass of water, a glass of milk to chug it down, it might be a little bit much. You might get like cotton mouth as a result and not be able to talk. But it wouldn't have been that bad. But I'm just, not only do I got these stupid gimmick bets, I'm all in on Yanez. Yanez is one of my main guys. He didn't end up making the top ticket. He's a top ticket play with Eubanks. So we absolutely need him in every which way possible. Also, I didn't put up props for this show, for this card on Twitter. But again, if you watch anything on Dogger Pass or you watch Propping It Up with Manpreet and I, Yanez inside the distance. Yanez by TKO, right? I mean, Costa seems like a one-round fighter. Yanez is such a smooth counterpuncher. The knockout his last time out against Gustavo Lopez was just a thing of beauty. And you see how that power translates for 3 rounds. So Costa's a bit of a front runner. Yanez can take you out at any point. It just seems like Yanez would eventually get him at some point. But I didn't expect Costa to come out that hot. I mean, we got to admit, this thing was supposed to be a walk in the park and ended up being definitely a sweat. I mean, Costa is a first-round fighter. We know that about him. His 2 wins in the UFC, he's absolutely diced his opponent very, very quickly by knockout. His 1 loss in the UFC, only loss actually in his career against Brandon Davis, he again starts off very hot, hurts Brandon Davis early, and then completely gasses out. Now, you give him a pass because when he fought Brandon Davis, he was on short notice, and he was training at a Lausanne's mixed martial arts over in Massachusetts. Now, he's another guy that's gone down to Sanford MMA, and it looks like he's improved quite a bit. He comes from a karate background, and those kicks just come out of nowhere. I mean, that's what he caught Jeremy Newson with his last time out. Got the KO there. And against Yanez, I just thought Yanez would be too quick to it, right? It's like, yeah, we know what this guy's going to do, but man, the jab is super long. He's got long arms on him, but he uses every bit of it. And the kicks are just so quick. He can snap them out extremely quick. You just don't know where they're coming from. And he can follow up a good combination. Like he can jab, get you to turn, snap that head kick. So he comes out as a big problem. The thing is, though, he had a super wide stance, and it just didn't look like Yanez was kicking the leg. It was there for him all night. He wasn't quite kicking the leg. But, I mean, hey, he had a lot of pressure to deal with. Those jabs all landed at will. I mean, the kicks were getting blocked, but a lot of them were getting through. They were starting to, add up. But it was the jab. Now Yanez is bleeding. Now they show you the official punch stat. It's like 50-10, and he's all over him. It's just like, oh, my God, this is not going good. The saving grace, though, is at least historically, Randy Costa is not going to be able to sustain that pace. He goes out there. He's still so young in his career. He doesn't have a whole lot of experience, and his wins are very, very quick. So he's going to have an adrenaline dump. This is the way he fights. This is the style that's yielded him success. He's not looking to change it. And all Sanford has done is just made him a lot more potent with that style, which is rush the guy and try to finish him in the first round. After the first 3, maybe 4 minutes, it looked like, Yanez took all of his best shots. Costa's slowing down, and Yanez just starts moving forward. And that was a big key. The first 4 minutes of the round, Costa's the one moving forward. Costa's the one keeping him at the end of the jab, mixing in those kicks. That last minute looks like Costa's tired, and all of a sudden he's moving back, and Yanez is starting to move in. So we definitely lost the first round, but Yanez made it good enough in the last minute that despite getting outstruck 5-1, wasn't a 10-8 round because he did fight his way back into it. And he just looked really cool and calm when he went back to his corner. Like the corner's just like, hey man, you're a lot better than that. And he's just like, I know. The ref tells him, the ref like wipes the blood off his chest going into that second round. And then Yanez just starts wiping his face and licking it. It's a BJ Penn move from back in the day. But as far as the opponent goes, that shit will fuck you up, man. You're staring across this guy, right? You just hit him with the best shots you got, and now he's pissed off. You guys had a buddy-buddy relationship coming in, but you decided to play your hand and bomb on him before he could get going, and now he's pissed off and looking to return the favor. Now, I think I got him bleeding a little bit. He looks like he's a little bit hurt. He's licking the blood off his own face. And you're grasping for air. You're tired. And now mentally you're thinking, oh, shit. I just pissed off the beast. And then Yanez came like a completely reinvigorated fighter in that second round. He was pressuring again. That was going to be the key. He started mixing in those leg kicks, which again, I mean, they were getting Costa's attention big time. And then when he did land the power, Costa's got huge power. Yanez has got big power. So I'm not saying power advantage on either side. What I am saying is that Yanez got hit with all of Costa's best shots. And Costa got grazed. The uppercut was flush. Costa got grazed by a few of Yanez's good, but not his best shots, and he folded away. But that does come back to experience, right? I'm not saying he's chinny. I'm not saying he quit in there, and he was definitely tired, and he had one hell of a first round. It was that in a dog fight, Yanez was licking the blood off his own face, and Costa got punched a few times in the head and then just sat on his ass, right? So yeah, when you're going to get to a drag him out type fight, that was the big difference maker. If they were to give Costa a junkyard dog in his next fight, the exact same thing would happen. If they don't give him a junkyard dog, this kid probably go out there and sleep you in the first round. He's got legitimate first round finishing ability. The last thing I want to mention is the jab, right? Why did Yanez, a guy that has good defense, why was he not moving his head? Why was he just willingly eating all these jabs straight up in the face? But you know what? That actually goes back to how advanced he is. What Costa was doing was throwing out those jabs so that it would cause you to move your head. What human being wouldn't try to slip off the line and avoid the jab? So what happens is he throws the jab, you slip off the line. As you slip, that's when he was timing those kicks. He's trying to get Yanez to move off the center line, to lean into the kick. And Costa can throw the kick from either side. He even landed a nice little question mark kick in there. So it was all about trying to get this guy to move into one of those shots. What Yanez did was actually quite admirable. He ate the jab. knowing that the jab was going to be a far less significant shot than his big old head kick. And he would eat the jab, he'd wait, and he'd look to counter right there. Once he wore out Costa and took his best shots, it was all Yanez. He's moving forward. The leg kicks started to work. The counters were there. Obviously, he's got punching power, but it was a very methodical approach. You never want to take a beating like that in the first round to come back in the second and third. That's not going to add to good career longevity, but that shows some straight-up maturity. And for Adrian Yanez, people would sometimes rifle on him saying, yeah, he's mostly beating bums, I mean, he's looked good doing it. Both of his losses as a professional, both split decision, the guy's in close fights. But, he's won a couple softball matchups on The Ultimate Fighter, and the UFC hasn't really tested him, and he comes in as a big favorite. And this was maturity, man. This is everything you want to see. And as far as betting Yanez going forward, you don't want to bet him as too big of a favorite. He did still look like there was some holes in his game that needed to be addressed. But for as much for a guy that's going to fight for your money, that's it. If I was to bet on Randy Costa down the road, it would very much be a DraftKings play where I'm trying to hope that he gets that first round finish and puts him away, or a soft competitor. I don't trust that Randy Costa is going to fight for my money. I don't trust that Randy Costa is going to have a broken nose, bleeding out of his mouth, and continue on. He needs more experience. He could eventually get there. But there's certain people like Adrian Yanez, Darren Elkins, as much as I hate to say it, Rolian Pava, and in the main event, TJ Dillashaw. Like, these guys aren't going anywhere. They're not. You have to shut the lights off or they can continue coming at you and be a problem. And, it adds up in the end. So very solid performance from Adrian Yanez. We've now officially hit in that top ticket. So if you bet the tiers as top tier one, let's just use it as a random example. Not random. This is what I say for beginners. If you put one unit on that top ticket, I always try to get it as close to even money, even though this wasn't quite even money. You'd have your 1 unit. On your second line, you'd put your half a unit. On your third line, you'd maybe have, a 0.3. And on your fourth line, a 0.2. In the end, if only your top ticket hit and you were at even money, as close to it, you could make a unit off that top ticket, and you lost everything else and you lost a unit, that's just a break-even night. So that's why it's key to hit that top ticket. If we don't hit that top ticket, everything loses. You lose 2 units on the night, and it would not be considered a good night. So I'm happy that Yanez got the victory, but we're gonna need some more, right? We got a couple more key pieces to come. The night's not going all that bad. Very happy that we could at least get back in the good read department from Adrian Yanez. And then we move on to Macy Barber, Miranda Maverick. And this was this is the killer. This was the real killer. It wasn't even like I was super high on Maverick, as though I had tickets that would have seriously benefited from a Miranda Maverick victory and a Miranda Maverick decision victory. I mean, Barber's tough. We'll give her that. I mean, she's very, very durable. She's not going anywhere. She seems to get a lot better as the fight goes on. So if Maverick was going to win this fight, it was going to be by decision. And likewise, if Barber was going to spring the upset, Maverick's tough as well, man. This thing was definitely going to decision. Just whoever you thought was going to win, you're probably going to juice it up by taking that by decision. And I did exactly that with Miranda Maverick, who could have been had for plus money by decision. So going into the fight, nothing really happens in the first round. It's not like either of them are having any big wow moments, but you got to go by the numbers. It most definitely, Maverick did outstrike her. She's moving forward. She landed better shots. There's just an overall feeling that she's won the first round, but just officially by the numbers, she outstrikes her 18-7. So even though not a ton was happening, the majority of the nothing happening was coming from Barber. She's moving around the back. All the punches that she did throw come up short. She did throw 36 shots. She just only landed 7. She was coming up very short, not really looking to engage, and it was difficult for Maverick to kind of chase her around and find that distance early. But she was landing the better shots. She was landing more of the shots. I think this is pretty clear, Miranda Maverick, first round. We can all agree on that. Now the second round's a lot closer. Even though the striking is competitive, it does seem like Macy Barber's coming on a little bit. It does seem like the momentum's swinging in her favor ever so slightly. The numbers are close. And in fact, by the end of the round, it would be a 15-13 for Miranda Maverick. But that's not in question. I would reckon that this thing is a Macy Barber round up until about minute 45 seconds left. Super close. Nobody's running away with this thing. It is literally, we're splitting hairs here. Until about a minute left, and Miranda Maverick plows her down to the ground with a beautifully timed double leg takedown. Barber had previously tried to get the takedown in the round to no success, and Maverick just plants her with ease and then immediately takes the back and finishes the round on a back take. How could this possibly, in any fucking world, be around for Macy Barber? Did I give her like the slightest striking advantage? Maybe. Yes. Yeah. I actually thought she was coming back into it. I thought those elbows that she was landing in the clinch, she would clinch up with her, press her up against the cage, land a couple shots. Maverick was not having a ton of success when she was getting pressed back up against the wall. And yeah, those short little shots were doing something. She was landing the better distance strikes, but nothing was really happening. But that takedown to back take is everything you need to know, right? It was a close round until then. Now this is very clear, concise, Miranda Maverick 2 rounds. I wouldn't even have to have watched the 3rd round, which obviously did, but that's how good I felt about it. I felt we've got 2 rounds in the bag. I got her by decision. This thing ain't ending in the 3rd round, even if Barbara wins, which it did look like her cardio was checking out pretty good. And did the same thing against Alexa Grasso, had a slow start, but finished up real strong. Even if she wins, she ain't finishing this fight. It's going to decision. I've already got 2 rounds banked up. No problem. As long as it's not a 10-8 round. In the 3rd round, still pretty competitive, man. I mean, again, officially by the numbers, it's Barber who outstrikes Maverick 16-14. It's a 2-strike differential. This is another close round, but there was no takedown from Miranda Maverick in it. You give the slight advantage to Macy Barber. 3rd round's Macy Barber's. Sure, no problem. But we're going to get a 29-28 clear across the board. And as soon as I hear all 3 judges score the fight 29-28, then it's just like, okay, cool. We know we've got it. The second that they read split, I just knew we were screwed. Just had a feeling. And judging wasn't particularly bad till this point in the night. What did we see? We had mostly knockouts. Brendan Allen won. That was pretty rightfully so. Dana Balbita won. That was rightfully so. And that was it, right? Everything else has been a finish. So we don't know the extent of how bad this judging is tonight. And then, to go the Macy Barber route on the split decision, I just don't understand. Mind you, a lot more people were crying in the main event because it's higher profile, but this is a bum decision. So the only thing you can think of is that they scored the 2nd round on Barber landed the better strikes, and who cares that she got taken down, and who cares that she gave up her back, and who cares that's how the round ended. She did land that one little forearm shot in the clinch. Like, what's the justification there? And then to say, well, you know what? I didn't see the judges' scorecard, so I assume nobody gave her the 1st round. But again, how would you justify that one? You got outstruck 3-1 and did nothing and backed up and landed nothing. You landed 7 strikes. So we know she didn't win the 1st round. Miranda Maverick outstruck her, took her down, and took the back, and somehow still lost the round. Anyways, I'm not sour because I've been doing this for 10 years now, right? So you get bum beats like this all the time. Sometimes, imagine we bet Barber, right? We would get the beat go our way. The ebbs and flows of the gambling game. What I saw in the main event was a lot of people were outraged, and I would reckon a lot of the people that are seriously outraged, first-time bettors, are new at this, right? They're upset because they believe money was taken from them. But if you're going to do this week in and week out all the time, then you understand a bad bounce, and it does not bother you. I wouldn't say I'm desensitized to losing, like, I lose all the time. It doesn't matter. No, it's not that. It's that you understand. You consider yourself a veteran of the game. Similar to Acosta, you just haven't seen it. You get anxiety. You get this. It's like, no. It was a bum decision. It was a bad decision. I'll never forget it. I will surely bring it up the next time we talk about either of these 2 fighters in the preview show. But I didn't lose any sleep over it. It is what it is. I understand. The judges got it wrong. We talk about Texas being a bad commission. We talk about Florida being a bad commission. We talk about, when they go overseas, these bad commissions. But we give Vegas the pass. Vegas has bad decisions all the time, but they're supposed to be the standard. They're supposed to be, the highest level of commission. These guys work fights every single weekend. They're experienced. I'm talking, I've been covering fights. I've been watching fights for 15 years, been covering them for 10. These judges have been judging fights for 20 years. Some of these guys are OG originals. Just, they don't care. They don't care. They don't know what they're looking at. I could not tell you. But this is a bad decision. Moving on, we got Darren Elkins, Derek Minner. We're on Elkins. He's like the second nice dog that we like on this card outside of Gall. Gall was a flip-flop. Elkins, we've been riding him all week. I teased on propping you up, and I really should have gone heavier at that. Like, the Elkins by TKO. Minner, we know who Minner is. Has an entire career of starting out like a bandit. First round, oh baby, he'll look for your neck. He'll try to get that guillotine choke. After the first round, this guy completely falls off a cliff, gasses out, is not the same man. Now, he's won his last 2 fights in the UFC. The first one was by a first round guillotine choke. Again, we know that's exactly what he does. And the second one, he was completely gassed out. Only Charles Rosa has no takedown defense, so when he was gassed, he could just establish guard and sit in guard for 3 minutes if you wanted to and win the round. It was like, it was easy money for him. Elkins has got the wrestling. Elkins has got the durability. He's got the cardio. He's got the pace. Beyond that, he hasn't been submitted since Charles Rosa submitted him 11 years ago. You're not choking this guy out, and it was just a bad stylistical matchup for Minner. I would have been so much happier, but like a lot of my Elkins tickets, all just burnt up in flames from this bum-ass Miranda Maverick decision. So I was excited to see Elkins get the win. I was excited to hit a plus money play, but it was just like financially, god damn, this one should have felt so much better. But this was a quintessential, actually, it was a quintessential performance by both guys. Elkins did exactly what Elkins always does. Took a beating in the first, wore some damage, and when the second round, when they went ding ding for round two, he was still there. He's not going anywhere. Another one of these guys that's going to fight for your money every time out. He could be busted, he could be bleeding, he could be hurt, he could be down. He's not going to quit. Is he the most talented guy going? No, but he is a roughhouser. He's a grinder. He's 37 years old. He's had an entire career of this. They have to match him up sparingly for him to go out and look good. But this is a perfect matchup for him. So Elkins does exactly what he does, and Minner did exactly what he did as well. He searches for the neck in the first round. He's strong. He established a little bit of top control. He landed a few good shots in there. He won the first round, in my opinion. I think most people probably agree. And then he gassed out. And as soon as he gassed out, he was a completely different guy. This happens to him all the time. And whereas he normally gives up the submission, it's just because the opponent looks for the submission. If you just keep punching, he'll give you that up as well. And so we had seen the last time he had been TKO'd, it was, much of the same, lower level opponent, grinds him out, tires him out, and just smashes him up with elbows. And that's just kind of the way that Minner rolls. He's super exciting. You don't cut this guy. He's always going to give you an explosive 5 minutes. But anybody in the top 25 that is not just going to get snagged up by some guillotine choke in the first is going to just get out of those bad positions and turn the table on him. He's also old enough that, and fighting up a weight class. The guy used to fight at 35 where he was a lot better, better fit. At 45, he's undersized. He's getting older. His cardio's no good. And you're not going to fix a guy with 40 professional fights. This is what he does. James Krause is an excellent coach. But there's only so much you can do. The guy has 40 professional fights. You're going to go out there and change his game? How many of these fights does he win by decision? How many of these fights does he even go to the third round? None of them. Be difficult to change him. But yeah, we know he's exciting. And again, I would reckon he's one of these DraftKings plays that you would play if you're trying to hit a first round finish. Imagine having Randy Costa and Derek Minner on the same ticket. Randy Costa could go out there and knock out Adrian Yanez. Derek Minner could have gone out there and gotten a first round submission, and you get a ton of points. But the reality of it is Adrian Yanez is legit. He was durable. He fought a good game plan. He had the cardio advantage, and he did exactly what he needed to do. Elkins had a lot of those same advantages. He was more durable. He had the better cardio. The wrestling, even though it wasn't all that effective in the first round, are you going to keep taking down Darren Elkins over the course of 3? No. Maybe you can take him down in the first, and you're going to expend a lot of energy doing it. But again, the guy's a junkyard dog, man. He's got the worst tattoo in the game on his chest. He essentially, it's like Boy Named Sue, right? The kid's dad names him Sue because he's not going to be around, so this guy's going to have to fight his whole life through, become tough. Darren Elkins put this tattoo on his chest, becomes the laughingstock of the division, and now it's like, you got a fucking terrible tattoo on your chest, dog. You need to fight your whole life through. He does. He earns respect based on the performances. He's a fighter's fighter. Darren Elkins has probably never walked into a room in his life where a fellow fighter did not have respect for him, because how could you not? So that was dope. You hit an underdog play, and a Kyler Phillips win here would have definitely gone a long way in washing some of the bad taste out of my mouth from the Miranda Maverick side of things, but just wasn't to be. This is another case in point of bad officiating. What is a 10-8 round? What is the definition of a 10-8 round? Back in the day, nobody really scored them, but even back in the day, it was just like a pure domination. Saved by the bell, almost finish a guy, plenty of bad spots, one-way traffic. That is what a 10-8 round is. Then they changed the rules a few years ago. Vegas is big on this too. New scoring system. We're going to be a little more liberal with 10-8 rounds. It's not so much pure domination. It's just like, this is a very clear-cut, one-sided round. Well, what needs to happen in a clear-cut, one-sided round? Well, you hurt the guy, you back him up, saved by the bell, almost a near finish, pure domination. Okay, perfect. So it's the same shit from the old criteria, only now you're encouraging people to, like, if you see it, if you even see something close to it, score that a 10-8 round. That's fair. There's no world that exists that is not a 10-8 round. Kyler Phillips drops him, right? Rocks him seriously twice more. It looks like this kid Pava is just on wobbly legs the entire time. He's flopping over. He gets tossed to the ground effortlessly a few times. Did he end up on top for 45 seconds? Sure. Nothing doing. He got his shit straight up rocked that entire round. And then the way the round ends, he's going to get finished. Most referees call this thing off. And then the 10-second clapper happens. And now human nature kicks in. See, as a ref, Jesus, guy's getting his ass kicked. There's 2 minutes left. You stop the fight. As a ref, there's 10 seconds left. Unless you're Herb Dean, you got an inside the distance ticket on Sean O'Malley, and it wasn't quite 10 seconds. But you hear that 10-second clapper, they generally let you go out on your shield. Not always, but like a large majority of the time. And so he's looking like he's going to stop this fight. When he hears that 10-second clapper, he immediately just decides, I'm going to let Paiva go. Let's Paiva go. Right decision. Let the kid fight. He's still in it. He comes back and wins the next 2 rounds. Not disagreeing with that in the slightest bit. Not disagreeing that this line was clearly off on Kyler Phillips. Not in the first round. First round, he looked better than the 3-1 favorite. Beyond that, the Paiva side of things, yeah, that was the money side. What I am strongly disagreeing with is how is this not a 10-8 round? That to me makes absolutely no sense. Now, the next 2 rounds are Rolly and Paiva's. Not disagree with that. But the next 2 rounds were still close. They were close rounds. They were Paiva rounds. He won those rounds. Not disagreeing with that. But they were still competitive. That first round was not competitive in the slightest sense of the word. So the second round, again, and this is a knock on Phillips. We mentioned this the last time out, is that he is real explosive. He does have just excellent striking. His wrestling's pretty solid, but he pushes such an incredible pace that he tires himself out. We had seen it in the past. The hope here was that he had made some adjustments and was not going to come out there against Paiva. He had a full camp. He was in good shape. Paiva was the one taking. He was supposed to fight Rafael Sunsao in the spot. Rolly and Paiva moved up from 125 on short notice to make this thing happen. So I did think that Phillips would have a little bit more success with the wrestling, holding him down anyways. But here's where he screwed up. The wrestling was there all day. He had just easy money takedowns. But he hardly used his wrestling in the first round. He just opted to throw spinning back kicks, wheel kicks and spinning back fists, and exploded into everything and rushed the finish a few times. That in the second and the third round, when it was just like, oh, I should just use my wrestling, he was too tired. He was too tired in the second and third round that he was getting the takedowns. He just wasn't really doing anything with it. Paiva diced him up in the second, won all the striking exchanges, but Phillips kept it competitive and mixed in a few takedowns. Paiva round. We go into the third. It's a Paiva round. Phillips, takedowns. Phillips, a couple nice strikes. Last minute, he kept landing that just one single. Paiva would move forward to try to engage him, and he would just time it perfectly. One straight right, bang, move out of the pocket. It's landing for him. Not as much zip as it was in the first round, but competitive third round. Just Paiva happened to win it. Again, better striking, backing this guy up. All good stuff. But we got a 10-8 round in the first, right? So I agree I'm wrong in that Phillips won the fight, but I am not wrong in that Phillips should have got a draw, right? He didn't lose. He didn't win, but he didn't lose. It was a good fight. It was a solid fight. It was a pleasure to watch. It was very enjoyable. When they read those scorecards, first two judges had it 29-28. You're screwed. Because then it would have been a 29-27 if they had given 2 rounds to Phillips in that 10-8 round. When they ran 29-28, that effectively means there is no 10-8 round. So now we've got 3 10-9s. And who won 2 of those 3 rounds? Paiva. Last judge gives it a draw. You know why? Because the one judge actually was watching the fight and got the 10-8 round correctly. And you're screwed. And then they announce Rolly and Paiva, and you are screwed. So, again, on one hand, I'm not sour about it. Like, I get it. And there's a lot of Rolly and Paiva backers. They were on the right side of things. I mean, they got a nice, solid plus money tag out of their guy. He fought for their money. He never quit. He kept coming at him. Do I think I should have got a push? Yeah, but I'm not saying I should have won any money out of it. I shouldn't have lost the parlays that still had Phillips intact on them. I thought it was a bad call in the Maverick Barber fight. I thought this was a bad call not giving the first round 10-8. But again, what can you do? It's just the way things go. And with Paiva, it's like, yeah, this is pretty sweet. At 135, he's going to be an action fighter, all action guy. I think that he's still going to be a tad bit undersized and people will be able to take him down, but he's training at Team Alpha Male. He's probably trying to look to shore up that part of his game, but his cardio looks solid on point here. And for the record, I thought he's lost his last 2 fights. I thought he robbed Zumagulov, Zumagulov, and I thought he robbed Kyler Phillips. Nah, I didn't rob Kyler Phillips. That's a stretch. He beat his ass for 2 rounds. Good, solid stuff, and overcame a lot of adversity in the first. I just didn't think he was the rightful winner of the fight. So when you think about it, it was like Uriah Faber's legacy was all over this card. He got Rolly and Paiva got a bum-ass first round to end up getting the win. Darren Elkins did it all on his own merit, and Macy Barber also got a bum-ass decision. TJ Dillashaw, ex-alpha male fighter. But I don't know. People said this one was a bum decision, and that's where this one is tight. This one's close. You can make the argument day and night. I had to rewatch it this morning just because I really want to. I don't rewatch any of these the morning of. It's all about how was it last night? How'd you feel in the moment? And in that moment, I thought TJ Dillashaw won 3 of the 5 rounds and rightfully so did win the decision. Watching it this morning, again, you can argue day and night. Maybe Sandhagen wins 3 of the 5 rounds. But to scream robbery online just makes no sense to me. This was an excellent fight, an absolute pleasure. And if you're a fight fan, how could you not be pleased with this? It was one hell of an outing. It was one hell of a way to cap off a card. And this was high-level mixed martial arts at its absolute finest. But people have this thing where it's like, I'm not watching the UFC anymore because you got the decision wrong. Really? Really? Well, then you weren't a fight fan to begin with. I'm sorry. I mean, you're not going to watch the fights anymore because your guy didn't win. Then this isn't for you, man. I'm sorry to say. Now, we all feel bad, and we all want to win the tickets, and we all want to win the money, and I fully understand that. And whereas you can most definitely make an argument that Corey Sandhagen won the fight, you can just as easily make an argument that TJ Dillashaw won that fight. And for that reason, you're splitting hairs, right? You can't scream robbery. You can scream robbery on Barber versus Maverick because it's like universally everybody's on the same page. You go to MMA decisions, everybody's got the fight ruled for Miranda Maverick. You go and you check the Rolly and Pava fight versus Kyler Phillips. I think it's like 20 people, 18 of them got this thing ruled a draw. I hate saying like, oh, the media and this and that, but eventually the judges need to be taken out of this equation. And what I would much rather see is you accredited the 15 or the 20 best media members possible. Not these schmucks, because straight up to MMA decisions, a couple of those guys are fucking schmucks. But there's a lot of legitimate guys there. And what they do is they give you everybody's version of it, and then you create a consensus amongst those people. The UFC would do it with rankings. Oh, these guys are all accredited. Their votes are going to add to the rankings. That's how they were doing it. Why could you not say, you know what, we want John Morgan and we want Errol Hawani. They would never take Errol, but you know what I'm saying. And we want John Pollock. For my money, he's one of the best. You take all these different guys that are credited. You take Mike Bond. You take, TJ DeSantis would be a good one to pick up there. You take some good guys, legit guys, in the media, 20 of them, and it would be their consensus. And in this case, the consensus is it's a draw, then it's a draw. And in the case of Macy Barber versus Maverick, definitely the consensus is a Maverick win. It's a Maverick win. And to your guys' credit, if you're a Sandhagen backer, the consensus was Corey Sandhagen, but close. It was a close fight. And so let's talk about the round by round, right? Again, it's all about just like, what are you looking at? What do you like as a judge, right? Do you like the takedowns? Do you like the forward pressure? Do you like damage? Do you like the striking? And while a lot of these guys, because MMA is a little bit newer and these are older judges, a lot of them didn't come in with like, oh, an MMA fan. You and I, we're MMA fans. We watch the sport of mixed martial arts. A lot of them came in there like, I did Hapkido. I did judo. Judo's pretty legit. I did taekwondo. They did traditional martial arts, and now they're judging mixed martial arts. And so what happens is a judo fighter comes in and they're like, oh, I did judo for 15 years. Yeah, I'm a judo black belt. I like judo. So now you see some judo tosses and the person otherwise get their ass kicked. You might favor the judo guy a little bit. You're a jiu-jitsu guy. Geez, you know what? I don't care if it's striking. I wouldn't put my kids in striking. Causes brain damage. I love jiu-jitsu. Jiu-jitsu is the best. So now you watch a fight, and the guy's going for some submission attempts, none of which sticks, but he's grappling. He's the one. He's going for attempts. Nothing stuck. You didn't submit him. So what? You went for an armbar. So what? You threatened a triangle choke. So what? You rolled for the leg. You got punched 6 times in the face while you did it. But they like he's trying to finish with the submission. So that's what they're basing on. All I'm getting at is that you have 3 different guys every time, and they all have their own personal preference, and that's going to oftentimes relate to you disagree because you have your own set of preferences. So this first round, man, it's a very, very, very close first round. Sandhagen starts off, he's landing the better shots, right? I mean, he's a longer rangier guy. Dillashaw is obviously very aggressive, straightforward. He wants to close that distance. He doesn't want to play this range game with Sandhagen. Very understandable. But Sandhagen is landing those better of those shots. Then he goes for that flying knee, which in another world connects and absolutely knocks TJ Dillashaw. Absolutely. But in this world, he just barely misses it. It leads to like a takedown from TJ Dillashaw and right into an inverted triangle choke attempt. High-level stuff from Corey Sandhagen. Through the first 2 minutes of this fight, he's winning this first round. He gets back up. Again, he's landing the better strikes, and that's when you have TJ Dillashaw starting to find his mark, starting to land a little bit, starting to add a few leg kicks, but he's mixing in those takedowns. And when he gets those takedowns, he's landing some ground and pound in the mix. Now, Corey Sandhagen's got a really bad tendency. Of course, I'm not the first one to point this out. I'm sure you watched the fight, you picked on it up as well, and the commentary team did make mention of it. He just gives up his back all the time. You go for a takedown attempt, you're not even committing to it, and they just duck under and take his back. Now, what TJ would do is he'd duck under, take his back, press him up against the cage, and he's landing short shots to the thigh. Now, it's not damaging, and Corey Sandhagen is definitely landing the better shots in the round, but it's work rate. He's working him. He was landing some good striking as well, some very solid striking. But he was mixing in these takedown attempts. He's mixing in this grinding him up against the cage. Then, late in that first round, he gets the fight to the ground. We have another takedown established for TJ Dillashaw. He gets on top. He lands some mild ground and pound. And this is where I think Sandhagen screwed up a little bit. Well, didn't. He just goes for the leg lock. Instead of scrambling, trying to get back up to his feet, this is a very close round, he goes for the leg lock. It wasn't a bad decision because, as it turns out, apparently he popped Dillashaw's knee. That may have been on a scramble. That may have been on something, but you're attacking a guy's knee and his knee pops. It seems like it's the right move. Where it was the wrong move was it did not submit him. It apparently did nothing to hinder his pace because TJ just kept coming at him. And when you roll for leg locks, it's like it's just a do or die move, man. You either get it and get that submission and you look awesome in the process, or you eat a bunch of damage in the process. And to me, that's what ended up happening. He was flirting for that leg. He was getting punched in the face. The last 10 seconds goes, and he eats 3 nice, clean punches straight to the face from TJ Dillashaw standing over top of him. Now, TJ grabbed the fence about half a dozen times. Herb's just warning him left, right, and center. He keeps looking at him like, oh, man, I'm sorry. And he says, like, dude, don't, you can push. Oh, dude, sorry. He says, what the fuck is he doing? But, they're not going to do anything about it. You can grab the cage as much as you want. You can also poke the guy in the nut, or poke the guy in the nuts. You can poke the guy in the eyes, kick him in the nuts, all you want. Referees don't seem to give a shit. You never lose a point. And so now that concludes first round. The first round is super close. I'm going to give the slight edge to TJ Dillashaw in this first round because, the ground and pound did start to add up. The takedown, I will give him credit. The better shots were landed by Sandhagen. But all in all, this is a close round. I give the nod to TJ Dillashaw. Second round, this is the clearest round of the entire fight. The only clear, concise round of the entire fight. Corey Sandhagen wiped the floors with him. Goddamn. I mean, he's landing at will. The kicks are there. That right hand is just absolute money. He splits his eye, busts him up bad, stumbles him a few times. Actually, earlier in the first round, he misses on like 4 or 5 jabs, and then boom, left hook, short left hook in the pocket, drops TJ. You get a knockdown. TJ pops back up. Sandhagen's landing the better shots, the heavier shots, controlling distance excellent. TJ shoots a takedown. Nothing doing on this takedown attempt. And then he busts him up with that right hand. And then this is another bum move by Herb Dean. So Sandhagen lands that punch. There's 2 minutes left. Immediately, Dillashaw is bleeding. This is Sandhagen's round. This is Sandhagen's best round. Not only did he just split him with this punch, but he dropped him with the left hook prior, and he's starting to pick up some momentum. And Herb Dean stops the fight to have the doctor come in and check the cut. Why? Was it that obvious that like, oh man, this needs to get checked out, or was it just a cut? This is a fight. They're in the middle of a fight. He's now bleeding. That blood is presumably going to run down into his eye. Sandhagen's going to see the blood. He sees the effect. He's rolling. He's feeling himself. He's landing shots. And you stop the action to have the doctor come in and check it out. The doctor just looks at it, and he just looks at him like, what do you want? And Herb's like, oh, it's good. It's good. Yeah, dog, it's good. You never seen a cut worse than this? Bad spot. It was a bad spot. But it wasn't even like, at the time when he stopped it, it wasn't bleeding anywhere. He asked TJ, you fine? Yeah, I'm fine. Okay. Then you resume the fight. And Sandhagen still wins the latter 2 minutes, whatever. It's just, you can't, this is a swing, man. This is momentum. This guy lands, I land, he lands a combination. I come back with a combination. I land something, he's bleeding. I'm going to pounce. I'm going to put some pressure on. Why couldn't have Corey Sandhagen gotten 10-8 round? He dropped him with the left hook. He busts him up with a nasty right hand that causes a big gash in his face, right? He's controlling the round. This is a clear, concise round, unlike the first. And if you don't put a pause in the action, who knows if he just keeps swarming him and gets a 10-8 out of it. Instead, you call the doctor in. The doctor tells you absolutely nothing. You give TJ 30, 45 seconds to recover, and now the round starts. Well, he's in a much better place now, isn't he? He just cleared the cobwebs. The whole time you're looking at him, he's thinking, like, oh, shit, this was what Corey was doing. Maybe I should do that. You're thinking. When you're in the moment and this guy's coming at you, you're not thinking like that, dude. Not thinking like that. So, again, Herb helps TJ out, but it didn't matter. It was a pretty clear round for Corey Sandhagen. We got ourselves a 1-1. Going into the third, I thought it was back towards TJ. TJ landed, technically speaking, he outlanded him 26-23, but the shots were from Sandhagen were the power shots. They were the bigger shots. It was that the striking was close, it was competitive, and TJ's mixing in the wrestling. This is also where the cut becomes a large factor in all the rounds after the second, is that TJ's bleeding everywhere. So there's a clear perception that he's hurt. There's a clear perception that Sandhagen is doing all the damage. All the damage in this fight was pretty well caused in the second round. The cut stems from the second round. The knockdown was in the second round. Everything else, he's bleeding. Sure, he's bleeding. TJ Dillashaw tends to bleed. He's got a lot of scar tissue on his face. And Corey Sandhagen's got an excellent mug on him. He clearly doesn't wear damage all that bad. Does that mean that one guy's clearly beating the other guy's ass? No. This is a high school fight. And you have to go back to class. You'd be like, oh, TJ got work. He's going to the hospital. The other guy's going back to fourth period science. Yeah, in that regard, it's a win. If this is Japan, you're fighting it, you're judging it as a whole. Yeah, I would say Corey Sandhagen had the bigger moments. Unfortunately, it's not. So the wrestling mixed in was a big thing for me. Also, in the third round, TJ starts getting the leg kicks going. They're close rounds, man. The third round's close. The fourth round's close. It's much of the same. You're splitting hairs. I will admit, Corey Sandhagen was landing the seemingly heavier strikes, the better strikes. It just looked like TJ Dillashaw was the one moving forward. He was still working well. He was mixing in those takedowns. Nothing was coming from the takedown. But again, you're moving forward and you're working this guy over. I got this thing 2-2 going into the fifth round. That's how I had it last night. That's how I had it when I rewatched it this morning. The difference is that last night I thought TJ won the fifth round. This morning, maybe Corey won that fifth round. And again, the fact that I can flip-flop on this, the fact that I had to watch the fight twice, the fact that you watch it twice and you have two different ideas of what happened. The first round, Corey could have won. The third round and the fourth round, anybody could have won. The only legit, clear, concise round this entire fight is the second. So to scream robbery, I don't agree with it. If I was a judge sitting cage side last night, I would have had that. I would have had the 3-2 for TJ Dillashaw. If I was me sitting in my living room this morning with no booze in me, no marijuana in me, a little marijuana in me, just watching the fight straight up, sober, close as sober as you could be, California sober, let's say. Yeah, if you're watching it from that regard, shit, you know what? Sandhagen kind of had the bigger moments in that fifth round. Again, he is landing the shots. Good fight, man. This is a really good fight. It's just I just don't agree with the robbery idea of it. It looks like, according to MMA Decisions, that the media members did have the slight advantage towards Sandhagen, and I believe that the fans that mailed in their votes, it was like 63% Corey Sandhagen. So if you're Team Sandhagen, you're not wrong. And if you're Team Sandhagen and you want to shit on the judging from the night, yeah, hey, I'm with you, dude. That was some shit judging. But I took a lot more exception in the how did Miranda Maverick lose either of the first two rounds. And I take exception with not scoring the Phillips versus Paiva fight a 10-8 in the first. This one, it was a mixed bag, man. It was good stuff. And it comes down to what you like and what you're looking at. And TJ's coming off the suspension. He needed this. He gets the win. He mentions right away, I think I get a title shot. I want a title shot. Yan and Sterling need to get it on as quick as possible. And then, I'll be waiting. If they are going to wait a little bit, I'll take a top 5 guy. That's the right attitude. He's had 2 years off on the sidelines. He needs to get back in there. He needs these good performances. He needed this win. He really did. Not saying that's why the judges give it to him, but he did need the win. With Corey Sandhagen, this does nothing to affect his stock. Guy's dope. He's clearly getting a lot better. His wrestling looked a lot improved in this fight. When he did get taken down, nothing happened, and he returned to his feet shortly thereafter. He does have a problem with giving up his back, and against a guy like the Funk Master, Aljamain Sterling, you don't want to give up your back, because then he puts the hooks in, and then all of a sudden he's got the rear naked choke. Dillashaw wasn't going to submit you, but a high-level BJJ guy, you can't be doing that. As a whole, though, this kid looked good. His cardio looked good. This is the first time he went 5 rounds, and again, in the 5th round, he looked pretty solid. You can make the case either way, so I'm not super bummed out about it. And the tickets that I had Sandhagen on anyways were blown up by that point because of some unfortunate circumstances earlier in the night. So you can't get them all right. I don't think that the reads on this card were terribly bad. Dillashaw versus Sandhagen. I did have Sandhagen. Whatever. You can argue that he won. You can argue that he lost. That's not the point. We knew he was too big of a favorite. And we mentioned that multiple times all week. We think he's going to win, but as a 2-1 favorite, it just it doesn't make any sense. The Paiva fight, the read was Paiva or Phillips would be able to do it for 2 rounds, not just the one. Should have got a draw out of it. Not bad. Elkins, we were spot on there. Maverick, we were spot on. The judges didn't agree. Adrian Yanez was spot on. Soriano was a bad read. Heinisch was a very bad read. Mickey Gall was good. Arche was good. Eubanks was good. Dinah Balbita was good. You look at it from that regard, it's like, we're on the right track. We just got a couple bad bounces. But that's the game, man. We're trying to, in some cases, we're trying to parlay 10, 11, 12 fights all together. Something bad's going to happen. Either one fighter has a bad performance or the judges screw it. I hate, you hate when the judges put their foot in, right down and cause you a good opportunity, because a fighter blows it, that's on me. I got a bad read. Who knows what happened in camp? Maybe it was my fault. Maybe it was I didn't notice on a bad weight cut or a pre-existing injury. Who knows? But at least there's a little more responsibility there, right? I can own up to that. I can own up to the Heinisch was a bad pick. I can own up to the fact that, Soriano, I had a feeling he was going to do that too. But whatever, I didn't pull the trigger, right? So this is all on me. But to have two judges come out there and screw Miranda Maverick, that's not on me, man, right? So it's tough to lose those type of fights. But the lucky thing is that it's a 52-week-long contest, right? I mean, this just keeps going. The UFC takes off the odd week here and there, and then you got Bellator and you got PFL to fill in the void. We do this every single week. There's a new show every single week. There's a new opportunity every single week. The very responsible people who only care to bet on 2 fights, 3 fights, they did good on this card, right? If you would have just taken Eubanks and Yanez, you would have been money. If you would have just taken Yanez, Eubanks, and Julio Arce, you'd have been money. But I'm such a big hardcore fight fan that I want to watch every single fight. I want that added interest on every single fight. If I didn't have $1 on the fight, I'd still watch it. But sometimes I put $5. That's a very small bet. To me, a $5 bet is I did not bet on the fight. But it's just that little bit extra. If you're smart, bankroll management, you do it the straight way, just bet that top ticket. It was a good night. If you got greasy with it, which clearly I got greasy with it, got some bad bounces. But the more fights you bet, the more you open up yourself to that. So all I'm saying is this card did not go ideal. It could have gone a lot smoother. It did not go a lot smoother, but thankfully we're going to have another opportunity to right the ship moving forward. So that was the recap. Yeah, man, really good fights. I enjoyed them top to bottom. I thought from an entertainment standpoint, it was very good. It's just like, I don't know what the correct answer is for the bad judging. I just couldn't tell you. I know some commissions now they're flirting with the 5-judge idea. There's 5 guys cage side that are judging it instead of 3. Maybe it takes a little bit more air off it. You can't go to a fan vote because, again, you've got people that are betting money on the fan side of things. But to have these credited media guys that are maybe all in the building anyways on one row, not talking to each other, obviously, that they got to look into something, dude. And robots is a good idea too, but we all know that a guy can land 80 strikes and the other guy lands 50, and the guy that landed 50, busted him up and landed the good shots versus pitter patter jabs. Like, stats are not always going to tell the whole story. A human being's going to have a better vision of it, but you need a larger group. 3 people can't be trusted, man. 3 people cannot be trusted. So anyways, yeah, that's UFC on ESPN 27, TJ Dillashaw versus Cody Saftic, and Dillashaw's just got a way of doing it, right? So whether you agree or disagree, hit me up in the comment section. Hit me up with any of your thoughts on the night. And as always, appreciate all the support. Appreciate you guys checking out the recap. Appreciate the Mayo Media Network for throwing up the platform. And I really do appreciate DraftKings Sportsbook for coming on, sponsoring us, and kind of giving us that extra push in the right direction. So I appreciate everyone for tuning in. And we will see you next week, hopefully on a better note. God damn, those judges. Oh, well, I'm not too upset about it. However, I will leave you with this. Why can't I get the shitty judges on Thompson Burns where nothing happened with the wrestling and it was all straight? God damn it. Till the next time, no, I'm not bitter.
Ow, ow, ow.